Alright, yan. Magandang araw mga kabatas natin at welcome sa isang mong live stream. Mga kabatas natin, alam nyo, some part of me really is pitiful, no? Naaawa dito sa nangyayari kay Harry Roque. Kasi nga, his answers seems to be all over the place din. Because like I told you, yung fingerprints niya parang all over the place din. Ngayon, pati yung sagot niya, it's all over the place din. At naipakita dito ni Representative Gutierrez, mga kabatas natin, yung mga hindi tama o nagtutugma-tugma dun sa mga sagot niya. Ngayon din, pagkatapos nito kasi mga kabatas natin, nung naside siya ng contempt, humihingi siya ng people power. Ngayon, nagtataka yung mga tao. Nagpapatawa na ba siya ngayon? Hindi na siya hari. Sabi naman dito sa comment section, akala ko Reyna. Ito mga kabatas natin, pag-aralan natin ito ha.
It more attractive to buyers that it is realistic to the value of the house.
Well, I mean, that's understandable, Mr. Chair. No? Sometimes we peg things at cost. However, we'd very much like to know the valuation. Mr. Chair, so you mean to tell me in all these years, kailan po itong pinatayo, yung PH2? Maybe no, Mr. Chair?
2019 po yan po.
So from 2019, you have not had this valued, you have not used it for mortgage, you have not used it as collateral in loan?
Hindi po. Tinirang ko lang po yan, tapos tinitignan ko nga how strong the market is. No? And I've tried to sell it, pero no takers. Kasi maganda po yung subdivision namin, pero wala pong
Yun ang problema dyan eh. I tried to sell it pero no takers. Sabi niya, nagkontra na naman yung sinabi niya doon. How will you sell it if you haven't valued the property yet? Dapat tanong dito ni Representative Gutierrez dito, no, ni Congressman Gutierrez, nung sinabi niya yon, magkano mo binibenta? Kasi pag nakita nyo, yung unang sagot niya before this, yung sagot niya before this one, at saka yung kwento niya ngayon, hindi maayos. Nagkakabanggaan. Bakit? Kasi sabi niya, hindi pa namin pinavalue yan. Pero sinubukan niyang ibenta. Pag sinubukan mong ibenta, ibig sabihin, may value ka ng property. Di ba? Let's go.
sa value. Kaya yun po ang problema, hindi pala ganun kabili magbenta. Miski mukhang maganda yung subdivision.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move on to FBMHC. This is first BATASnatin.
Hindi niya tinanong yun eh. Dapat tinanong mo yun eh. Akala ko ba hindi mo pa na-value yung property, ba't mo ibibenta?
And I forget the full name of your corporation. It mentioned here that the stake of Biancham for 50% as counterpart.
Ito pa, sabi ni Alpha, di daw marunong magtagalog si Cassie Ong. Kaya siya nandoon, di ba? Tapos si Cassie Ong, dire-diretso yung Tagalog. Ewan ko ba?
Part the Green Mile was 35 million, Mr. Chair. Do you
Yes,
confirm this?
Mr. Chair, yes.
What is the source of this 35? Is this also sourced from the land banking from the sale in 2017?
Precisely po, dito po kami nag-land banking, Mr. Chair. Yung aming nakuhang proceeds na share namin na
Sabi ni Teacher Mark, how can you sell without value, priceless ba? Ewan ko sa kanya.
roughly equivalent to about 45 million because 45% of the total value of the sale because apat pong magkakapatid yung naghati doon sa sale na yon. Binigay yung share ng dalawang lalaki. Yung dalawang babae po ay kami po yung mga anak na representing na 1/4. Tapos yung auntie ko po na single is the other 1/4.
So, Mr. Chair, the sale that you're mentioning, the generation before you, yun, na apat na siblings.
Apat na siblings.
So, you are entitled to 1/4
1/4
of the 200 million.
Of the 200 million. And then my aunt was with us because single po siya and she lived with us all our lives.
So, you would also assume her her 1/4. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
Well, kami po talaga yung heredero niya and we've always considered her as part of the family, not just an aunt.
So, as far as you're concerned, you are dealing with the one half of the 200 billion. The other half, the proper claimants have taken hold of the property.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So, that pegs it at around 100 million, Mr. Chair?
About 100 million, Mr.
100
Chair.
million. And this is what land bank the supposed 35 million in Biancham.
Yes, that was the initial investment, Mr. Chair.
So, Mr. Chair, the payment of yung Biancham, the 35 million, together with the Green Mile, this went into the purchase of the 400-hectare property?
310 hectares po.
310 hectares. And the valuation total was?
We bought the property po at 100 pesos per square meter.
Apologies, Mr. Chair. I'm really bad at math. Ano po yung total value po nun?
Well,
Yung
that's
purchase
100 pesos, so that's 310 million po.
310 million. But your
Laki, no?
share was only 35 million. How did you purchase the 310 million? 35 million from you, 35 million from Greenbat. That makes it 70 million. How did you come up with the 310 million?
Well, una nga po, ang unang bibili lang namin was supposedly 90 million worth kasi 90 hectares. And then our consolidator offered, lakihan na natin na 200 million payag pa rin po ako dahil kaya pa namin nung up to kalahati ng 200 million. Pero nung natapos na nga po yung 200 million, sabi ko hindi na namin kaya yan, ikaw na yan. No? So my partner on his own proceeded to purchase other property para lang makumpleto yung buong bloke. Pero hanggang ngayon po, hindi pa rin po kumpleto yung buong bloke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, okay, 35 million supposedly for 35 million from you, 35 million from Green Mile to purchase a 90 million worth hectare property, but somehow you're able to refinance your way to 300 million.
Hindi po refinance, we just coughed up additional capital. No? So ang sabi ko po, we invested a total of 95 million and my partner
So, saan galing yun?
coughed up the difference between 310 and 95.
So, Mr. Chair,
200 po.
this is a 50-50, not a JV, no, it's a new corporation between Green Mile and Biancham. Biancham coughed up 90 million or you coughed up 90 million?
Well, it was in the name of Biancham, pero ang ginamit ko po nga is yung pera from the proceeds of the sale.
Mr. Chair, why do we... Mr. Chair, I'm sure you understand the difference in legal personality between you as heirs, as beneficiaries of the sale, and Biancham, which is a separate legal corporation. How come we treat it as if the money that you get as your personal, as an heir, you can easily reinvest on behalf of Biancham?
Well, because
Yan din yung sinasabi ko. Di ba? Sa pera ni Raffy Tulfo in Action Foundation. Bakit yung mga anunsyo ni Raffy Tulfo doon sa mga pera na nakukuha niya sa YouTube, parang sa kanya yun. Kung ang may-ari ng YouTube channel ay Raffy Tulfo in Action Foundation pala.
because we intended to reflect everything at some point, no? And we're in the process of doing that po, no? We are in the process of doing that. Medyo tedious nga lang yung process, the accounting process, no? Because this is actually property for stock transaction already, no? But mas convenient po yan kasi sabi ko nga, lahat po ng kapatid ko nasa abroad. So, hindi po sila makapirma ng every time may bibili na property. So, ginagamit po namin yung corporate vehicle. At saka, ang bumibili naman po is yung First Bataan at shareholder lang yung Biancham. So, we provide the capital when needed, but up to a certain amount.
Mr.
Ganun
Chair,
po.
this is, as a lawyer, you made purchases out of convenience at the risk of legal infirmity?
Hindi naman po, because this will be reflected, no, in the shareholdings. No? And that's what we're doing right now. It's a bit tedious po, lalo na dahil natay nga yung aking tiya at meron ng estate aspect ito, but it's being done now.
Mr. Chair, is this convenience
Magaling magtanong tong si no? Bilib ako dito kay Representative Gutierrez.
in relation to your siblings, or is this inconvenience to the fact that Biancham is 97% owned by you?
Hindi na nga po, kasi inaamin ko naman po na yung mga kapatid ko ay merong share dyan sa Biancham. Hindi ko pa yan pinagkakait. And
Mr. Chair, apologies.
Pero how will you say na meron ng share yung mga kapatid mo when it was not even reflected in any of the papers?
It's very difficult for you to say that they are entitled to a share when legally they are not in the papers. I understand your intention to bequeath to them, perhaps their fair share eventually, but as far as we're concerned, when we talk of this corporation, it is you and only you, Mr. Chair. Wala pong kinalaman yung inyong kapatid po dito, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, kaya nga po dyan pumapasok yung pagiging kapamilya. I have been acting as the father figure to these three siblings of mine. I have never intended na gulangan ko sila, and they trust me completely, no? Because I don't
Wala na, huli na siya dun Huli na.
do anything to breach the trust. Diyan naman po pumapasok yung pagiging kapamilya.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'll move on po, no? Although I'm sorry, I find it very hard to believe that legal luminaries such as Attorney Harry Roque would allow for legal infirmities in these very, very sensitive and serious transactions, which involve not just millions, but the hundreds of millions. Now, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask, and again, we appreciate your initiative to have submitted the sale of the property in 2017 and that you have so kindly explained to us now. We also appreciate, and personally, I do appreciate your concern regarding the trust that you have this with your family, the privacy that you're seeking. But I hope, Mr. Chair, that Attorney Roque understands that there are some questions that are left unanswered. And as much as we would like to respect this story of family and privacy, there are just some questions that are left unanswered po, no? So, going back, we have the 35 million in FHBMC, which is not properly written in the books. He mentioned 35 million upfront he spent for Biancham from the sale. Then he also mentioned an additional 60 million which he coughed up from the sale. That puts it at 90 million just in FHBMC alone. Mr. Chair, how can we explain then in 2017, Biancham reported, as was pointed out by Congresswoman Louise, 60 million in cash and 125 million in cash advances. This is way beyond your share of the sale, and this is way beyond the full purchase price of the sale, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, yung cash po na 60 million is precisely what was used for the land banking. So, doon po ginastos yung cash ng kumpanya para bilhin po yung mga lupa.
Mr. Chair, you mentioned 2017 po yung land banking.
2017 po yung bentahan.
Bentahan.
Opo.
And the purchase of the Bataan property was when?
Started in 2018 po.
2018. But the recording of the 60 million in cash under Biancham, not under First Bataan, it is
Yes.
under Biancham.
Yes.
Was only in
17.
allow me to check, Mr. Chair, for the period of 2018.
2018 nga po. So, yun nga po yung ginamit namin for the purchase, preparing nga po for the land banking. So, pinasok na po yung cash doon para lahat ng mabibiling mga property, yun yung ma-reflect na contribution po ng Biancham.
No, Mr. Chair, when Biancham was in receipt of the 60 million pesos in cash. And Mr. Chair, would you care to explain the 125 million in advances dito sa AFS?
Well, ang advances po kasi is, yun po yung mga binibiling property na hindi pa po na-increase ang authorized capital stock. Now, at 2017, well, actually po kasi itong recollection ko talaga, no? Although ang records namin, mas alam po na
Mahirap talaga mag-recollection pag hindi mo talaga naaalala. Lalong-lalo na pag hindi nangyari.
aking partner. But I have a list na ang aming recollection, well, at least ang listahan ko is 2017, nagsimula kaming magbayad. So, ang recollection ko po is sa 2017, nagbayad kami ng 102 million. Tapos, ang 2018, we paid 96,302. So, yan po yung mga cash advances na kinakailangan i-convert into equity later on. Dahil ang advances po talaga kapag pinurchase ng property will have to be converted into shares. So yun po yung allowance para nga ma-recognize yung mga cash advances to go to the people who in fact provided the capital.
Apologies, Mr. Roque. Perhaps I'm not as adept as you in your corporate matters, but it just does not add up, Mr. Chair. Like I mentioned, it was in the AFS 2018 in which, for the period covering up to December 2018, that you reflected 60 million increase in cash and 135 million in advances for Biancham. However, it was actually in 2017 which you already reported payment of 35 million for FHBMC.
Yes.
So how come, Mr. Chair, you have reported already as early as 2017 in FHBMC, which means Biancham has already invested in FHBMC and then only belatedly in 2018 recorded cash for the statement ending December 2018. And the property sale was in 2017. And not only that, Mr. Chair, one more thing.
Oh, tama nga yun. Ay, yung sinasabi niya dito, mga kapatid natin, 2017 pa yan sinasabi mo. Bakit sasabihin mo yan na naman? Eh, nag-reflect na nung 2017 yung bentahan na yan.
Why it does not add up. Sabi po ninyo, yung 60 million cash earlier was not for FHBMC. You mentioned it was for purchase of shares, which there was no increase of shares in the GIS of Biancham nor in FHBMC.
Well, let me clarify now, no? Unang-una po, cash went out even before the sale was perfected. Kasi meron po kaming
Another legal
infirmity.
infirmity.
Hindi po, contract to sell. Kasi siyempre, initial payment ka, hindi naman po lahat yan outright na deed of sale lahat.
Yung sinasabi niya legal infirmity, mga kabatas natin, parang illegal. Illegal na gawain. Okay?
So meron pong mga pagkakataon na nasa ng titulo, yung mga iba po kasi wala pang titulo, yung mga iba kailangan pang isettle ng estate. So meron po kami mga cash advances talaga na may mga kontrata na contract to sell dahil hindi naman po sila lahat deed of absolute sale kaagad. So in fact, ang unang linabas namin, and I remember this now, is sometime in 2017, pero wala pa pong deed of sale yun kasi parang 40% ang binayaran namin and they have to submit everything, no? Including type.
Okay, ito yung sinasabi nila doon sa hindi nga ako nagpapaliwanag. Papaliwanag ko. Yung sinasabi niya kasi na contract to sell, meron na. Okay? Kapag bibili ka kasi ng property, ang ultimate na kontrata dyan yung deed of absolute sale. Yung deed of absolute sale na yan, yun yung magpapakita na fully paid ka na doon sa bayaran. Tapos yung deed of absolute sale na yon, yun din yung magta-transfer ng ownership. Okay? Ngayon, mga kabatas natin, sinasabi ni Harry Roque dito, ni Attorney Harry Roque, na meron na kami natanggap na pera by virtue of the contract to sell. Pwede namang mangyari yon. Kasi sa contract to sell, mga kabatas natin, ginagamit yan kapag yung payment ng property na binibili mo ay based on installments. Ibig sabihin, habang nag-a-accrue, kunwari, every month, dapat magbayad ka ng 2 million, may natatanggap kang 2 million. Yung seller may natatanggap na 2 million every month hanggang ma-fully paid. That is by virtue of the contract to sell. Tapos eventually, mga kabatas natin, magiging deed of absolute sale na.
Titles before so that we can commence with the deed of sale. So hindi naman po yan na isang give lang, no? So meron kami talaga mga contract to sell muna and then when they perfect all the documentation, that's when we pay the entire
Mr.
purchase
Chair,
price.
apologies, but in 2017, your corporation was only worth 1.5 million.
Yes po, because hindi pa po nabebenta yung aming lupa. Kaya nga po tumaas
Pero 2017, sabi mo, nagbentahan.
yung aking cash position because nabenta nga po yung lupa.
For 2017?
In 2017 po yan na nabenta, no? So,
This is period covering up to December 2017, Mr. Chair. So at the end of 2017, all transactions for 2017 should have been reflected. And yet, after the sale of land in 2017, 1.5 million lang po yung worth of Biancham, which you claim is the vessel in which you have used to invest in FHBMC worth 35 million in addition to 60 million in cash and 125 million in advances. Mr. Chair, your
Doon dyan na uli, mga kabatas natin. Kasi tapos na yung transaction doon. So, dapat nag-reflect na. Kasi nga, nireflect naman na yung iba. noong 2017. Kaya nga umakyat ng ganon. Kaya lang, hindi maintindihan dito ni Representative Gutierrez, kung natapos na noong 2017, tapos na i-apply na yung bentahan at bilihan doon, yung proceeds niya, bakit dumagdag at nakakuha pa rin kayo galing doon sa transaksyon na yon, samantalang doon na kayo nagkabentahan? Okay?
Testimony does not make any sense.
Well, it does po, no?
Yes, it does not make any sense talaga kasi lumaki ng sobra yung pera na hindi mo alam kung saan galing, pero sinasabi niya na galing pa rin doon sa bentahan noong 2017, which nag-reflect na dapat. 'Di ba? Kahon na kahon siya doon. Kasi parang ito ang ginagawa niya. Meron siyang isang balon. Okay? Yung balon na yon ng tubig yung well. Meron siyang well. Yung well niya ng tubig na yon, yun yung bentahan ng lupa na sinasabi niya na pagmamayari ng pamilya niya. Ang problema, nung 2017 pa lang, nag-reflect na at nagamit na nila lahat ng tubig doon sa balon na yon. Di ba? Dahil nagamit na nila, wala ka na dapat makukuha. Kahit hindi siguro balon, tangke ng tubig. Okay? Meron kang tangke ng tubig, tapos doon, nagamit mo na lahat, accounted na, nag-reflect na. Ngayon, bakit ka makakakuha pa rin ng tubig doon sa tangke na empty? Di ba? Parang ganoon yung line of questioning dito ni Representative Gutierrez. Side na Tapos na, napag-usapan na natin yan, nagamit nyo na yan, i-reflect nyo na rin. Bakit? May nakukuha pa rin kayo galing doon. Di ba? Bakit? Ano yan? Money tree?
Because as I said, pag bumibili naman pa ng lupa, hindi naman cash lahat yan. May mga advance payment po yan.
Mr. Chair, it should have at least reflected as liabilities or payables in your
Well,
AFS.
siguro nga po, maybe that's why, as I said, I'm not a corporate lawyer. Political law.
Di ba? Yun na lang sasabihin niya, hindi ako corporate
Liabilities or
lawyer.
payables in your
Well,
AFS.
siguro nga po, maybe that's why, as I said, I'm not a
Dapat magre-reflect kasi yun. Ngayon, pag hindi rin kasi tama yung reporting mo, may liabilities ka rin sa Securities and Exchange Commission. Yung mga GIS mo, tsaka yung mga AFS, Audited Financial Statements mo. Kasi sworn under oath din yung mga yan, yung mga submissions na yan. You can be liable for perjury dyan or at least violation of the SEC law.
corporate lawyer. Political lawyer po talaga ako, and even an international lawyer, no? That's what I teach, no? So ako naman po, I rely on what the accountants will say, no? Pero makikita niyo,
Kasi wala kasi talaga nang nangyari. So yun yung tinatanong niya. Hindi naman nagre-reflect dito, hindi man lumalabas dito, 2017 pa yan Nakuha mo na yan, side na yan tapos na yan Bakit may nakukuha ka pa dyan? Pag meron ka nakuha, bakit hindi nagre-reflect dito? Sabi niya, hindi daw siya kasi expert sa corporation law. Pero sinabi niya, may accountant siya.
no? So ako naman po, I rely on what the accountants will say, no? Pero makikita niyo naman po, merong effort to reflect somehow kung ano yung mga...
Sapat ba yung effort to reflect somehow? Siyempre, hindi. Lalong-lalo na kung meron kang accountant, yun nga yung trabaho ng accountant. Magaling sila dyan. Unless you will deliberately omit or reflect the wrong figures, kahit gaano kagaling yung accountant mo, hindi talaga magiging tama.
nangyayari. Kaya nga po nagkaroon ng 60 million cash ang pumasok sa Biancham kasi ipinasok nga po yan intended to purchase property. At ano naman po yan, sumabay naman po yan, Mr. Chair.
Ang dami kasing pumapasok na pera. Ngayon, ang justification niya lang iisa.
Panahon na nakuha namin yung proceeds ng bentahan ng lupa namin sa Parañaque, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, unfortunately, for someone such as yourself as a legal luminary, I find it hard to believe that you would be unaware of the infirmity surrounding the failure to report these kinds of things. And in fact, that's the precise point of having an AFS. This is independently audited. You have an auditor for this. So how come you're able to deal with...
Tama. Yung mo, yung sinasabi mong accountant mo.
willy-nilly left and right between FHBMC, Biancham, together with Green Mile, yet it is not properly reflected. And even if we say it's reflected eventually, you always say that it's going to be fixed in the future. I hope you understand, Mr. Chair, the frustration of how it's very hard to make sense of the story. Because, Mr. Chair, as properly as Chairman Ace mentioned, why we want to look into this, and as you mentioned,
Because it does not make sense.
why we have to look into your family matters. It's easy to claim yung pamilya po namin nagbenta ng property. It's easy to claim that this property was, this proceeds were used in investing here. But for as long as hindi po siya natatrace sa money trail, I don't know if the committee will accept the explanation na aayusin po namin yan later on. Or aayusin po namin yung cash flow investment. Because, Mr. Chair, the most glaring, the most
Tapos, Representative Gutierrez, there is the right, well, you are always given the opportune time to correct it. If you don't, there's a liability. Kasi those reportings are time sensitive. Diba? Yung mga reportings na yon, they are time sensitive. Kapag hindi mo ni-report yan on time, malaking issue.
obvious, easily, with an investment of 60 million in cash, which your AFS already mentioned was in subscription, not in FBHMC, but in Biancham itself. For the succeeding GIS, 12.5 million pa rin po yung shares ninyo. Hindi naman po siya nag-increase by 60 million. So there seems
And sabi ko sa inyo, saan galing? Wala na.
to be a disconnect. And Mr. Chair, let me connect this now. If I may conclude, Mr. Chair, I'm sure you and I both are very confused with the allegations. I think, Mr. Chair, what I'm trying to drive at here is that there seems to be some great confusion with the finances na might not be necessarily of Mr. Attorney Harry Roque, but at least of Biancham, which is alarmingly related in a way, at least with PH2. And why do I say alarming? Mr. Chair, I'd like to bring this back po, no? Yung nabanggit po natin dati. Yung sa previous hearings, which I think, as the Quadcom, as the successor of those individual hearings, we can take notice po of the facts that are mentioned. I'd like to mention these facts, and I'd like to ask Mr. Roque his thoughts on this as a summary po, no, to really put into light why we're asking these questions. Number one, Attorney Harry Roque represented over LS 99, Lucky South 99 property.
Mr. Chair, I did not.
You did not. You claim that it is Whirlwind, but it is the same subject property.
Well, it is.
It is.
It
Okay, thank you,
because
Mr.
there's
I
a
will
conflict.
I will tie into that later on.
Yeah.
Di ba? Huli. Yung tinal sa kanya, nag-represent ka ba ng Lucky South 99? Hindi, sabi niya, pero parehong property yung pinag-uusapan. Tapos ito si Cassandra Leong. Sinabi niya rin na, ang problema kasi... Good night. I'll be there in a
How many streams?
One more. Two more. It will be fast. It will be quick. Okay?
Promise?
I promise. Okay. Kiss me first.
I just brushed.
That's why I want you to kiss me. Okay. Di ba? Huli. Oh. Iba rin yung sinabi niya kasi sa Senate eh.
Yes.
Second fact that I'd like to state, Mr. Harry Roque facilitated Lucky South 99 meeting with Chair Tenko.
Well, Mr. Chair,
You did this. You had 6 missed calls with Attorney Rivera ba yun?
Yes.
You've set it up. You yourself said when Cassandra Ong met Chairman Tenko, no whirlwind matters were mentioned. It was all purely Lucky South 99.
Mr. Chair, I did so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, please allow me to...
Mr. Chairman.
Allow the member to finish his question first before you reply, Attorney Roque.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chair,
most respectfully, Attorney Roque, I understand that you will have your time to rebut these later. But I hope you understand as a lawyer especially.
Pero yun nga yun. Kasi mali-mali. Si Cassandra Leong din, sinabi mo, itong mga taong ito, because they are inchik, they cannot speak Filipino. So they need people like us to speak in behalf of them. GG.
There's a line of questioning that I wish to pursue. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Number 3, Mr. Harry Roque was cited as legal representative in Lucky South 99 application. This was mentioned by Chairman Tenko. He was cited as legal representative in their organizational chart. May we hear your response on this particular matter, Mr.
Attorney
Chair.
Roque, please.
That was not authorized, Mr. Chair, and I have emphasized it over and over again. And I have said that that paper is
Ginamit lang yung pangalan niya.
only evidence that it exists. It is not evidence of the truth of matters stated therein, as in fact, Attorney Jessa Fernandez said that that information was unverified.
Thank you, Mr.
She
Chair.
said that
So
on
it
record.
exists as proper documents with PATCOR, official applicant office. Mr. Chair, Mr. Harry Roque has bank documents which were discovered in the Lucky South 99 raid. He's already mentioned this earlier. Mr. Chair, number 5, Harry Roque's executive assistant and confidant resided in Lucky South 99 when PORAC was raided. As already mentioned earlier. Number 6, Harry Roque's subsidiary Biancham owns 99% of PH2, which housed San Liming, Red Notice Interpol suspect who has links and is cited as IT administrator of Lucky South 99.
Sakit niyan.
Number 7, Harry Roque's holdings have, well, we still have to discuss this, but I believe, as far as we're concerned, legally, putting aside your story of family, has unexplained increases worth 60 million in cash, 125 million in advances, and 35 million in investments in FHPMC.
60 million in cash, 125 million in advances. Oh my God, that's a lot of money.
And lastly, Mr. Chair, Sorry, the last point was actually about 35 million. So as I mentioned, why I asked this earlier, it seems to be, for every point when taken individually, Mr. Harry Roque has some explanation. It's either, not to quote this, not to be brash, but you have to understand how much we take this with disbelief na may namatay, they won't be able to testify, it's a family matter, it is private, I have nothing to do with it, I am not the lawyer. All of these are usually plain denials on the part of Mr. Harry Roque. However, what I mentioned earlier, it seems to be that coincidence hounds Mr. Harry Roque. It seems to be coincidence follows him around and could explain everything. But the fact of the matter is, Lucky South 99 seems to hound Mr. Roque. As I mentioned it, he has been representing over the property subject by Lucky South 99. His executive assistant lived in the compound of Lucky South 99 despite living an hour away from the aviation school in Clark. He also has he has arranged the meeting between Cassandra Ong and Chairman Tenko, which he says was supposed to be whirlwind, but as far as we're concerned, and the testimony not by Roque, but by Chairman Tenko himself, was that all that they discussed was Lucky South 99 matters. And the list goes on and on. The back documents found there. It is mentioned that it's because it is memorabilia of his EA. But the fact of the matter is, Lucky South 99 strikes again. Mr. Chair, of course, I'm not saying this as a final verdict, but I hope you understand, Mr. Chair, that for the Quadcom, we are here to listen to every piece of evidence, and they all seem to indicate one direction. And the missing piece now, I think for me it is clear. I don't know with the rest of the members of the Quadcom. At best, there is a link with Lucky South 99. At worst, this is a terrible, terrible string of coincidence. But one thing that we should ascertain from this
Yan yung sabi ko rin, coincidence di ba?
point on why I was reserving my comment for the motion by Congresswoman Louise to request for the documents of the trust, for the documents regarding the family matters of Mr. Roque. While we understand the want for privacy, Mr. Chair, these coincidences seem like more than just coincidences. And the missing link now, if we see that there's a link with Lucky South 99, the question now is that we have to verify. How do we explain these, supposedly, as far as I'm concerned, unexplained increases through his subsidiaries and through his companies? So I think, Mr. Chair, that should be the direction, at least for the portion regarding Mr. Harry Roque. And actually, Mr. Chair, I still had some questions regarding the leases, regarding Ms. Paterna and his relation with Harry Roque, and we have other questions regarding Lucky South 99. But seeing as we have been now at this hearing for 6 hours, 7 hours, I think I would like to yield to the other interpellators in the hall. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Attorney Roque, for the indulgence.
Okay, mga kabatas natin, dyan muna tayo. Tapos pag-aralan natin ulit yan sa susunod. Okay? Lipat tayo sa kabila. Maraming salamat po. At syempre, tuloy laging sinasabi, matulog po tayo na maimbing dahil alam natin na yung natutulog na maimbing, siya yung laging panalo. Paalam po, pansamantala.